The 2024 Formula One Brazil Sao Paulo Grand Prix is underway this weekend, and we have got two sessions concluded so far, the first and only practice session as well as the sprint qualifying. I'm here to go over all of the highlights of both sessions, talk about everything important and what's going to happen tomorrow. So we're going to go over the sprint quality session, all the highlights. So if you don't care about FP1, skip through the timestamp to the quali. Let's get started right away with FP1. First thing coming into the session was that the circuit was repaved and has not been used before this weekend. So they repaved it in knowing that obviously F1 was coming. Sometimes tracks repave stuff like Coda, and they'll have different championships run there, different cars running there, whether it's sport cars, Formula cars, whatever. But as far as I saw, the circuit was just repaved freshly and has not had anybody race on it since. That's what they made it out to sound like. So we're gonna go with that. Also coming into the session, Kevin Magnussen was sick and is out for the first session. We weren't sure if he's going to be out for the whole weekend. Now we know that he will be out for the whole weekend, and Ollie Bearman will take his seat. And wow, did he do a good job in FP1. So let's go over that. First runs, the first half of the session was a lot of not soft runs, so a lot of medium runs because obviously sprint qualifying 1 and 2, you're going to have to be on mediums. Not a lot of people did the softs until the very end and did their qualifying runs. First runs, though, Max barely ahead of Russell in first, with Perez about 4/10 behind in third. So Red Bull doing a good job beginning at FP1. All medium runs at this point, though, and it was hard to tell what kind of fuel load they have at this point. Towards the end of the session, it started to pick up quite a bit when they went to the softs, and you could tell they were going lighter fuel. But it seemed like they were doing longer runs to start. Lewis puts a time on 200th off. He was 200th off George Russell, and he's still crying about ride quality. And that was a constant over the sessions today. Was Hamilton as well as Russell at some points complaining about the ride quality, but mostly Hamilton just fucking bitching about the whole time. But first runs all medium. Last 10 minutes was all soft runs. Bearman set a really good time on the softs ahead of Sainz, Norris, and plenty of others on their soft runs, and just 14 hundredths off, or 1/10 and 400ths off Russell for the top time. So he sets an amazing time compared to everybody else's first soft run. Verstappen bailed out on his last run where he looked like he would have the fastest time. Maybe not. Maybe he pulled out to not show his hand. But his final run of FP1, he looked like he had the best. He was going to put the best time on the board and pulled off at the end. Lewis, towards the end of the session, was saying he's in pain with like literally 30 seconds left. Just crybaby bitch while George is in P1. But he was crying about how he's physically in pain, like all this. Dude, you better get used to it, man. You better get used to it, okay? And again, it was kind of a constant. Mercedes is really the only one complaining about the ride quality that much, but it's because the track was repaved, which the commentators are saying makes it bumpier. I guess smoother in some areas, bumpier in others, but that with the low ride height that Mercedes tends to do, they were having a lot of issues. So final laps, Lando sets the fastest lap. Russell also reporting how bumpy it is, but sets the P2 time. Perez all the way down to 19th, only ahead of Zoe. Get this off my telly now! Let's check out the results from the first practice here. Can I just put this? I'll put myself in the corner here. So yeah, you can see here, we'll go through the entire list for FP1. Norris, Russell, Ollie Bearman, less than 2/10 behind in third place. What a performance from him in that FP1. And he carried that over into sprint qualifying, which obviously we'll talk about. Oscar Piastri in fourth, Alex Albon fifth, Charles Leclerc sixth, Carlos Sainz 7, Hulk 8, Alonso 9, Gasly 10, Liam Lawson 11, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda in 12th again. What you doing, little bro? Franco Colapinto 13th, Valerie Bottas all the way up in 14th, and he pulled it out in sprint qualifying as well. Max Verstappen in 15th, ahead of Lewis Hamilton in 16th, Lance Stroll licking windows in 17th, Esteban Ocon at his spot right at home in 18th, Sergio Perez also at home in his place in 19th, and Guan Yu Zhou coming in as the perpetual backmarker. He ain't going nowhere but 20th, okay? So let's move on. Let's go back out of this. Let's move on to the sprint shootout. But before that, we got videos and clips of Christian Horner walking into the Williams team hospitality area after FP1. They asked James Vowles about it, and he said that he was coming to try their new coffee sponsor. You cheeky bitch. When they're this fucking cheeky about it, you know they're being obvious that they're hiding something, which we found out is talks of Colapinto going to RB. And while the talk started as him replacing Liam Lawson in his spot so that Lawson can move up and replace Checo, now the rumor is that he's just going to go right to Red Bull, which I don't know if I believe that necessarily. I think they would definitely go with Lawson over Colapinto at this point, but it's hard to say, and it seems like Colapinto does have quite a bit of a following. Obviously, they're in Brazil, and Argentina's not that far away, and obviously he's from Argentina, so he has quite a bit of support at this race this weekend, kind of like a home race for him. But anyway, enough yapping about Colapinto. Probably going to be on Red Bull at some point because it doesn't seem like he has anywhere else to go, and why the fuck would he go to Sauber? So anyway, moving on to the sprint qualifying, the sprint shootout. Weather was much different here than in FP1. No sun, more wind, and much cooler track temps from FP1, and likely a lot different than what we're going to see in the sprint race tomorrow, which could include some rain, which will make it a lot more interesting. So right off the bat, Ferraris go first. Sainz goes 6/10 slower than Leclerc. Perez goes to the top on his first run, but not for long as George Russell takes it again. Recently, the last couple of weeks, man, he's been really good in these pre-race sessions. Always towards the top, which kind of weird. I don't know whether other people just aren't pushing as much, but it seems like Russell has it lined up during these practice and some of these qualifying sessions. So track starts to speed up a lot in the middle of SQ1. Max comes through in fourth on his first run behind Piastri, Hulk, and Lawson. Okay. 3 minutes left. The pit's emptied out, obviously, for the final runs of SQ1. Perez goes ahead of Verstappen with a bit of a tow. So he placed ahead of him in SQ1 with a bit of a tow. And he took the fastest sector 2 as well. So that was kind of interesting that Perez took fastest sector 2 because A, he's slow as fuck. B, he's washed. And C, and most importantly, Max was losing the most time in sector 2 compared to the other cars where he was on point, on course for fastest lap, setting fastest sectors 1, sometimes 3. Mostly sector 1 he was the fastest in, but then sector 2 he's losing a lot of time. And that seems to be the case with Red Bull a lot of these tracks recently, is that they're really good in the first and third sector. Typically the first they're always good for with the straights, and then the middle sectors where it's a little more windy they've been having trouble. So Lando sets all 3 fastest sectors on his final run, and to take P1 coming out of SQ1. Both Williams and both Haas make it through with Bearman ahead of Hulk on literally no day's notice, and Albon up in P3. So some of these lower constructors, man, they're really coming along towards the end of the season. Haas has been fucking unbelievable since Coda. They've really been coming through. Williams has been pretty good towards the middle part of the season, and not bad now. They were a bit ahead of Haas for a couple weeks, but it seems like Haas has done a really good job. Obviously, if fucking Bearman can get in there and do that well right away. And they've been in the points for the last couple of weeks. So Yuki kind of getting exposed again. There's a lot of rumors going on right now between Colapinto and Lawson, and Yuki's out in Q1 again. So here's your final SQ1 grid. We have Norris, Piastri, Albon, Leclerc in fourth, Perez in fifth, ahead of Verstappen 6, Bearman 7, Hulk 8, Colapinto 9, George Russell 10th, Sainz 11, Lawson 12, Hamilton 13, Gasly 14, and Valtteri Bottas makes it through into SQ2 into 15th. Let him know, bro. We still here, okay? Fernando Alonso, first one to get booted in 16th. Esteban Ocon in 17th, pretty typical. Yuki Tsunoda, oh God, sorry, bro. You had your chance. You're done. 18th, Lance Stroll licking windows down in 19th, and Guan Yu Zhou, as always, in 20th. Moving on to SQ2. Track temps continue to drop at this point in SQ2. Looks like rain's coming, but it never actually did end up hitting the track, or at least nothing substantial. Lando sets all 3 fastest sectors again on his first run of SQ2 this time. Verstappen sets fastest sector 1, and then loses almost 3/10 in sector 2 to come in second behind Norris. Again, I think they're and it's funny too. They're better on the straights, but I think they're running a bigger rear wing than McLaren. So really, I don't fucking get it. But Haas skipped the first run. So obviously in SQ2 as well as SQ1, you're running on mediums. So you don't have to do one lap. Obviously the first lap's going to be the better lap, but you can do more than one push lap on mediums, obviously. So Haas decided to skip their first runs and only come out for one run with about 2 minutes left. They got nothing to lose. They went out. Bearman jumps to fifth, over 2/10 ahead of Hulkenberg. So again, what a session from Bearman. He was really the talk of this qualifying session today and practice. I mean, he got third in practice, bro. I mean, everybody did a soft run, and Bearman came in third, and then he came through again in sprint qualifying. So really great day from him. I mean, every time he's gotten in the car, he's really shown himself. So I'm excited to see what he can do for a full season, honestly. Perez went out too late at the end of SQ2, which isn't exactly his fault, but kind of is as well. He's a fucking idiot, whatever, and could not get his second run in, so he ends up not getting his second push lap in. Hamilton could not do enough on his second run to get out of the drop zone behind Gasly, Bearman, Russell, Lawson, Albon. Fucking wash, dude. Enjoy him, Ferrari. Enjoy that, bro. You guys think you're going to upgrade, bro? You seen how Sainz been racing compared to Hamilton, dog? Good luck. Good luck. Final SQ2 grid. Again, Norris at the top, followed by Piastri, Leclerc, Verstappen down in fourth, Sainz fifth, Gasly sixth. Amazing job out of a fucking Alpine. Bearman seventh. Unbelievable. Great job again. Ahead of Russell. Ahead of Russell in eighth. Lawson in ninth, and Albon in 10th. So Lawson makes it all the way through to SQ3 while Yuki gets fucking booted out again with Perez fucking playing with little kitty toys down in SQ1. But anyway, the elims, Lewis Hamilton, quite a few early exits in qualifying this year. Just saying, bro. Just saying. Give him all that money, make all that big deal. You kick out Carlos Sainz, winning races for Lewis Hamilton. But all right, bro. Whatever. I guess you guys know what you're fucking doing. Prepare to be disappointed is all I'm saying. Okay. Hulkenberg out in SQ2. Obviously Perez, he's lucky he even made it into SQ2. Colapinto and Bottas took 15th. I mean, that's as good as he could ask for, obviously. So moving on to SQ3. McLaren's the only two to go out to start the beginning of the session, and I believe they were the only two, maybe the Ferraris did as well, that did 2 full push laps on these softs. So, again, obviously, SQ3, you have to run softs. You only get 1 pair. It's not like a normal qualifying where you can just throw on a pair of softs, do 1 lap, switch them out, throw on another pair. So, McLaren go out, those two to start. Albon follows them out a little bit later. Lando sets a really good benchmark off the bat, and then everybody kind of files out for their one and only runs. Bearman, unfortunately, eats a bit of curb coming over turn 2, ruined his run right away, and the time ended up getting deleted anyway, so he probably should have just aborted the lap and tried to push again. He had enough time, but I guess just rookie mistake. Maybe they didn't tell him. I mean, really, they should be in his ear telling him right after they see that. He's kind of like skateboarded over the turn 2 curb. They should have told him, just chill, recharge the battery, don't use the tires too much, come back through, try to push again. He had enough time, but whatever, still made it in, ends up in 10th. Really good day from him regardless. McLaren's came through for their second lap, and Piastri goes past Norris by 200ths on their second push lap. So Piastri kind of been struggling recently compared to Norris, but had the pace today, man. Looked good today. Verstappen comes through fourth behind and suffered again in the second sector. That was kind of his story. It's been his story for the last couple of weeks. I don't know whether that's just his setup or what, but seems his middle sectors where there's a lot of twists and turns to give him issues. Not necessarily with him driving, but with him with the car. I wouldn't say it's him driving, but it could be setup dependent. And who knows as well that he could have gone for a wet setup, considering that the sprint race might be wet tomorrow. And you have to consider they're in Parc Ferme now, so they can't change it now until the qualifying after the sprint race. So you have to take that into consideration. There may be some wet setups here because it should rain. I'm not 100% sure, but it should rain. It's going to be kind of similar today. But anyway, somehow his softs were better on the second run, and Piastri does just enough to take pole for the sprint, his second sprint pole of the season. The final grid, and we'll take a look here at F1 website. The final grid for the the sprint race tomorrow is Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris lock out the front row for McLaren 1-2, followed by Charles Leclerc in third. And if you watch the predictions going into this weekend, I did predict Lando to win and Charles to be second. I thought it was going to be between those two all weekend, and Oscar threw his name in the ring too as well. So that'll be interesting. So we have Piastri, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen down in fourth. Not going to lose too many points in a sprint race from being that far down, but he's still going to have to take that 5-place grid penalty for the race, and that's going to be brutal. So Carlos Sainz in fifth, George Russell in sixth, Pierre Gasly drags that boat of an Alpine up into seventh, Liam Lawson, another great weekend from him to start, takes the RB up into 8th. Alex Albon takes the Williams to 9th. And Ollie Bearman brings the Haas up into 10th. Look at that, man. We have Alpine, RB, Williams, and Haas all locking out the bottom, followed by your normal guys up here. So really great job there. Lewis Washington down in 11th. Nico Hulkenberg 12th. Perez 13th. Colapinto 14th. Valerie Bottas 15th. Alonso 16th. Ocon 17th. Tsunoda 18, just barely ahead of Stroll, which, I mean, dude, you got to be upset with that. And Guan Yu Zhou, your perennial backmarker, in last. If he's on the grid next year, I might not watch. That's all I'll tell you, okay? That motherfucker only knows how to be last, okay? We don't need any more fucking trash. So that's your sprint qualifying session. Oscar Piastri ends up taking pole again in the sprint race. I guess we'll see what it comes down to tomorrow. Is there going to be papaya rules? Is there going to be fucking papaya rules and he has to let him through to get 1 extra point? Or are we just going to say, Oscar, go do your race and see what happens? I swear to God, bro, if there's some bullshit rules where he has to switch the place over 1 point in a sprint race, I'm going to be fucking pissed. But if they know what's good for him, they probably will, because it really could come down to 1 fucking point. It really could at this point. So they really have to try to take any point they can. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Piastri let Norris through. And, God, I'd love to see Piastri shut the door on him into turn 1 and fucking they hit or just can't get past. I'd love to see that. I hope Oscar goes defensive into turn 1, fuck Norris, bro. If he was on pole, he'd bottle it anyway. I bet he'd go way too far outside and let fucking 4 or 5 people through anyway. So, fuck him. He would just ruin it anyway. Good for Oscar Piastri. I was kind of getting worried about him, man. For some part in the season there, around Baku and stuff, we kind of thought maybe he's the number one driver here. Maybe he's outperforming Lando Norris, but it doesn't seem like that's the case anymore. I don't think we'll see much of a attack opportunity for Verstappen here. He'd kind of be lucky to keep Carlos Sainz behind, so not a great spot for him to be in. He might as well get used to the overtaking though, because he's gonna have to be busy on Sunday. With it says a 5-place grid penalty. It could be more if they end up having to take more components, but I imagine if they had to, they would have already had to declare that and take that penalty. So seems like just a 5-place penalty for Verstappen for the race on Sunday. And here's the thing, man. At this point in the year, with everything we've seen, I think being in fourth for him is probably the best he can ask for. Because at this point, he's either going to be passed by both Ferraris and one McLaren, both McLarens and one Ferrari, maybe a Mercedes in there. Probably not, though. You can tell they just don't. They're not at. They're Mercedes. I think at this point is firmly the number 4 car behind Red Bull. But it's very clear also that McLaren and Ferrari are both ahead of Red Bull. So I think fourth is probably the best he can ask for. He's lucky that he even got ahead of Sainz by less than a tenth, and he's 3/10 off Oscar. You know what I mean? So the McLaren seems to be having a good weekend. I did pick Lando Norris to win both the sprint race and the main race. But rain and wind and conditions could change all of that. We saw Lando in the past be in the lead and have issues with the rain, like Russia. We've seen issues with the rain, and the rain does just make everything much more tense. And we've also seen, not just with the rain, but Lando, let's say Singapore, have three massive mistakes, almost ending his race when he's over 20 seconds ahead of the pack behind him. So I don't know, just because the car's so much better. But if he tries to go too offensive on Piastri and Piastri closes the door, man, Leclerc's going to come right through just like he did before, man. He's going to be ready for that shit. He knows that Lando's going to be trying to get past Oscar, and I don't think Oscar's just going to be letting him through. So I think Leclerc's going to be ready to pounce on that. And yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, especially if it's raining tomorrow. I think it's crazy that we have the Williams, the Haas, RB, and Alpine all in the bottom part of the top 10. I think that's great. This season has been so insanely competitive, and it's just getting more and more competitive as we go towards the end of the season. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Not a whole lot happened though. No big crashes or anything. A lot of people get going over curbs, having this and that issue. Nothing really crazy happened though today. If you didn't miss much, just really good session from the younger guys, man. Ollie Bearman, Lawson, Colapinto did pretty well. Not great considering Albon got up in the 9th, but I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you got winning the sprint race tomorrow? I'll be back after the qualifying in the sprint race tomorrow. I'll do a recap of that as well, in case anything big happens, or even if there doesn't. But yeah, we'll be back. Appreciate you watching. If you're at this point in the video, like the video. If you like the video, subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow with more for what should be a very hectic Brazil GP weekend. Peace.